Well, hello everyone. Please come to stage area. It's up the stairs in our floating pink venue. We are so happy. I'm saying that on behalf of my team. We are so happy to have you all here today. We're streaming live. If you cannot manage to attend in the Metaverse of Spatial, please do follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, and also, well, try to enter the environment. That's more fun than just watching the streaming. So I'm Eve, the founder of Evenness, and I am very, very proud to have my team by my side working on decentralized series for the last few months. It's been epic so far, with great speakers coming to present their thoughts, ideas, share knowledge on the topics of frontier tech, innovation, artificial intelligence, 3D design, and most and foremost, accessibility, inclusion, and security and safety. Today we have one of the brilliant sessions, because I find it brilliant, because we're merging artificial intelligence with immersive technology and the tech that aims at sustainable development goals. It is technology for good, as we usually speak about it. Now, how do you make your technology good or bad? Well, there are many ways to do so, right? Let's focus on the good side of things and discuss the needed developments or policies or regulations and practices that have to happen in order to make our world, virtual world, better, secure, safe, accessible, more inclusive. And besides that, more fun. So let me present you the functionality of things. If you're new to this environment, the functionality is that you can use your keyboards on your keys on your keyboard. Arrow keys help you navigate your avatar. You can go sideways by using side keys. Up and down, you're moving back and forth. You can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for various things like showing the power, waving to one another. 3, 4, 5 will be dancing. Woohoo! Love that. And also, I would really appreciate if you learn 2 keys. C, letter C on your keyboard. It's for clapping and sharing love and support for our speakers and for each other. And Y is thumbs up. Please try clicking on C and Y, and you'll see how fun it is. Yes, I see you doing this. Fantastic. Now, you can also use spacebar for jumping if you are into jumping mode, like excited. And you can also use the letter Q. If you hold it for a while, you'll start rotating. It's for the your view, right? To change the view if you rotate. One announcement to make. So we have an operator, video operator, standing in the center of the bridge. I would kindly ask for the guests to be beside the operator, and all the speakers will come where I'm standing. They will be called to the stage. Okay, without any further ado, Evenness is an extended reality solutions provider and a consulting firm that helps a lot of clients and individuals and communities to have not only fun in the metaverse, but bring their concepts and ideas to life. Today, in this spatial space, Spatial is a partner of Evenness, we're welcoming very bright minds in the industry and I think in this century, who will share with us their knowledge and their insights. We'll start with the keynote speech. And keynote is an address that will be delivered for about 10 minutes by Kristina Podnar, Global Digital Policy Advisor at XRSI, XR Safety Initiative. She is also executive lead at Metaverse Reality Check, the MRC as an abbreviation. And she's the author of a very awesome book that I started reading. It's called The Power of Digital Policy. Yes, indeed, she is a digital policy innovator. And I would not be presenting her any longer because you would hear from her firsthand. Kristina, please come to the stage and let's swap our places so you could present your knowledge and yourself. Thank you. Click on C, dear guests. Let's show love and how we support Kristina.
Thank you so much, Eve. First of all, for that wonderful introduction, but I would actually be remiss for not saying thank you also for pronouncing my last name correctly. It's rarely done as such. In fact, it's interesting because when I speak, most people don't understand that English is not my native language. I have a trait that allows me to blend in a little bit easier into my environment. But English is not my native language, and I didn't actually grow up in the United States, even though I might look or sound like it at the moment. My formative childhood years were spent in a country called Yugoslavia way back when. Now it's known as Croatia, since declaring its independence in 1991. And it was an interesting time for me. I actually grew up in my maternal multi-generational household, and it was in the mid to late 1980s that were very poignant to me because not only was I growing up in this communist country, but we were Catholic, growing up in a communist country where we weren't allowed to show our Catholicism. We were in an environment where men and women went off to factories or fields or hospitals, and it was an interesting time for me because my family quietly stood out from other families, mostly because there was just this sort of inherent notion always that everybody could be and do whatever they wanted to be and whatever they wanted to do. It was never emphasized to me. My grandparents and my mother never said explicitly, you can be whatever you want to be. It was just sort of assumed, right? You're going to show up as you are. You're going to be what you are. And it was very freeing in a way in this very sort of, conflicting environment. And when I was into my teenage years, I actually moved to the United States and got to live in a different environment. It was more of a male-dominated environment in the sense that I was with my father, my paternal grandparents. And it's interesting because they too had immigrated from Croatia to the United States, had varying experiences. My paternal grandmother grew up on a Navajo reservation in New Mexico. My grandfather worked in the coal mines in Washington State. But here too, the thing that was really familiar to me was this sort of unspoken, inherited notion that I, as a girl, as a growing woman, could be or do whatever I wanted to be. And at the time, I didn't really register what that meant. It was this quiet empowerment that really gave me the courage to do many things in life, things that I would never think about probably as a young child, including earning my BA or MBA in a condensed period of time, or working in a very male-heavy dominated area in the early 2000s, establishing a consultancy, or even having, the audacity to publish a book. And so what I realized is that it was this notion of I could be or do whatever I wanted to be and do that really propelled me forward. And in the last 5 to 7 years, that's really been weighing heavily on me because what I noticed is that there was this inherent notion that I could do or be whatever I wanted to be, but it's also because the color of my skin, the fact that I could drop my accent, right, that allowed me to achieve things and to foster, sort of accomplishments that maybe other people don't have, right? People who inherently have been discriminated against and still are because the color of their skin, they can't blend into an environment, or they have an accent, or, maybe they just were born the wrong gender in the wrong place, the wrong year, religious choices, whatever it is. And sadly, right, and it is very sad, it's very sad that since the Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 to today, 74 years later, we still are in a situation where basic human rights are not globally recognized. And here we are moving into what's coming next, the immersive technology world, the Metaverse, right? And all these really great things that should rightfully so have us excited. And so I'm oftentimes reflecting on what Albert Einstein said, which is insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I was really excited when the United Nations introduced the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. And, very, very hopeful, lots of great things that hopefully would even out the playing field for everybody around the globe, right? Not just in some countries, but really everywhere. Things like the no poverty rule, the clean water and sanitation, gender equality. And I've been fortunate enough to see a little glimpse of that in some countries. Earlier this year, I traveled to Saudi Arabia. I didn't see a lot of women driving. I still saw a lot of women in burqas, even though they don't have to wear them by law. But even though we have these incremental movements forward, it's taking us as humans a really long time to adapt to the changes that we not only want to see, but the changes that we need to see from a sustainability perspective, and also from an equality perspective and an inclusivity perspective. And let me suggest that that might be because what we haven't done yet is adopted a fundamental notion that you, that me, that anybody anywhere can be and do what they want to be. But they only can be and do what they want to be if we actually allow them to do that, if we invite them, if we empower them, if we enable them. And I know for years, we've been talking about things like, oh, you can donate some money, or you can, maybe sponsor a child. You can do a lot of things. And it's true. You can do all of those things. You can make huge changes for the environment as well. But I think one of the easiest things that all of us here today and everybody tuning in can do is we can start to adopt basic principles when we are developing this next iteration of the web. Right? As we actually look at immersive technologies, the thing that we can actually do is recognize that we don't know what we don't know. We're not inclusive. We are not diverse. We don't offer opportunities, not just to sit around the proverbial table, but to actually sponsor and educate people and include everybody who ought to be included, which is basically anybody that's human who wants to participate and who's breathing in the development of these new technologies. And so as we gather here today, I think that there's a phenomenal opportunity for us to talk about what that means and really start to make a change, which is why I'm very delighted and honored to be a part of XRSI and the Metaverse Reality Check. The Metaverse Reality Check is an interesting entity. I'm not even going to call us an organization. We're an entity because we're an oversight board for and by the citizen. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's invited. You don't have to have a card. You don't have to pay for membership. What allows you to join is the fact that you want to join. You can dip in and out of the Metaverse Reality Check. You are there as a fellow citizen. And what we're doing around the globe is we're advocating, lobbying, educating, and working together with governments, with big tech, holding them accountable and asking them to make change, not just in terms of day-to-day workings, but in policies. Start to create policy and regulation, start to fund education, start to fund fundamental things that we need like research to understand not just the really great opportunities that the metaverse and the immersive technologies represent to us, but also how do we ensure fundamentally that we don't let another 74 years go by with the same human rights being talked about and spoken about without actually incorporated into what we do, right? We've seen this before. We've learned lessons. We've been around for Web 1 and Web 2. I know everybody says that, but this really is a moment in time as we're starting to build that we need to be thinking forward. As I talk to a lot of developers and organizations, they say, well, we're trying to be accessible. Don't just try, do, right? Recognize the fact that even though billions of people around the globe are already connected to the internet, more can be done to connect even more people. Right? We're in a new era of enhanced processing power, connectivity, storage, and sharing, but only for those who have that access. Not everybody does. And it may be that they choose not to, but that's a choice for them to make, not for us, right? Everybody needs to be invited. If you're human, if you're, breathing, you should be invited. You should be enabled. And so as we look to technology can help not just minimize inequality by providing access to basic services, right, like the internet, but also go beyond that into e-health, online education, right? We have these new capabilities of becoming metaverse, the virtual reality, the augmented reality, the IoT, the data analytics, and the sensors. They're going to provide an incredible amount of opportunity from a commercial perspective. We're going to be able to do so many amazing things, anything from predicting, analyzing, optimizing, networking and computing, communication and commerce, monitoring, tracking. But we also have to recognize that there are inherent risks and this great opportunity that we're building. There is the fact that people can still be discriminated against, even if they don't know they will be discriminated against. And a lot of people say, well, just change your avatar. Well, you know what? You don't always have the choice of changing an avatar. You may not want to change your avatar. Maybe you just want to show up as who you are and have the basic rights of not being bullied, of not being harassed, not being threatened, not being murdered, not being kidnapped, not being raped. A lot of things that we're seeing happen as a result of existing Web 2 trends and policies. And so what I would do today is invite everybody who's listening, everybody who's an audience to really dream, right? Don't stop creating. Don't start innovating. I don't want you to do that. I want us all to create, to innovate, to dream, and to build. But I want us all to do that within a framework where we know all of our fellow human citizens will be safe. They're not going to be put at risk because of inherent bias, biometric data collection that they're unaware of. We will ensure privacy, safety, inclusivity, and accessibility, but only if we deliberately do that. And that means creating policies, creating the framework, if you will. And we can still have that freedom within the framework. We can do cool things, but we also need to make sure that we're safe and that we're deliberate and that we're inclusive. So let me ask you and really implode you that as we look to the UN Sustainability Development Goals, which, by the way, everybody says we're not going to meet, let's prove folks wrong. Let's really jam it up. Let's put this entire technology stack on steroids and let's start advocating and including everybody so that when we actually get to the point where we have this metaverse, it's something that's unlike everything we've seen before. And everybody who's a human, who's breathing, who wants to be included has a place and has an opportunity to be how they see themselves and be what they want to be, because that's where all of this started for me. And I believe it can start for everybody else. And so with that in mind, I'm looking forward to great dialogue today and listening to all of your stories and learning from you as well. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what an opening keynote. Please click on C on white, show support and share love, because that was exactly what people needed to hear. Thank you, Kristina. Let me turn on my camera, and I would love to invite everyone later on to the discussion. So we'll have Q&A. You would be able to ask Kristina a question. But for now, I am standing here. Oh, that's great. Angel Bush is next to me already, which is fantastic, because I'm going to introduce her to you. Who is Angel Bush? Wow. So this lady is the founder of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. And imagine, her story started once she attended an event, and it was mostly, well, let's call it as it is, male-dominated venue. So she started thinking about the need to bring diversity into the field and how she could change the world by not only inspiring women to join this technological movement, but also organizing various educational initiatives and steer their path to not only learn more, but also define their careers, find passion, and share their learnings with other women. Black Women in the Artificial Intelligence focuses on Black women in artificial intelligence, but they are open to men and people of any other color to join them in their movement. So dear Angel, please take the stage to share with our participants your story and also take over for the panel. You are our panel host for today, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. I am hoping that you guys can hear me. I'm not sure why I kept walking around in circles, so forgive me for that. I'm getting accustomed to the space. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, Eve. We are so excited about this conversation, and what Kristina mentioned is really showing up as yourself, showing up as who you are. And what we want to do now is really invite our speakers to introduce themselves. I'm going to quickly tell you my name. My name is Angel Bush. As Eve just said, I am the founder of Black Women in Artificial Intelligence, and I am logging in from the Black Women in AI Metaverse. So I'm really excited about that. But we want to introduce you to our panelists. Kristina, introduce yourself, and I know you just spoke, but introduce yourself and share which location you're joining us from.
So today I'm joining you from the Washington, D.C. area. And
Kristina?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Excuse me, everyone. Please, the speakers, please take the stage. Let's come to the stage because the video is streaming. We want to see your faces. Please enable your cameras and to start sharing. That will be very exciting. Thank you. And Kristina, please.
Absolutely, thank you. Thanks so much. So yes, I'm joining from Washington, D.C., where it's quite humid and sunny today. And as introduced earlier, I'm really, really humbled to help organize the Metaverse reality check, where we really are all about ensuring human rights in the Metaverse and holding accountable not just our government, but also big tech, any type of academia that's doing research, and really enabling individuals. So I invite everybody to join us as a citizen and more about us at Metaverse Reality Check or at XRSI.org. But Digital Policy Sherpa, my goal in life is to understand the opportunities and the risks and make sure we balance those out correctly for all of us.
Welcome, Kristina. Next, we'll have Gabriel.
Hi guys, yes, so I'm Gabriel Fidalgo. I'm joining today from Zurich, Switzerland. So you probably guess I'm not from there, but I've been working here in Zurich for the last 3-4 years, and then the 7 years before I worked in Geneva, always in the 3D industry. Originally, I'm from the south of France. I'll talk a little bit about it later, but I'm a street artist who joined the tech industry a few years ago. So I started from graffiti, and now I'm designing experiences and beautiful things for applications in the metaverse and video games. So I work essentially with arts and culture, but I also work in the fashion industry. So yeah, that's me.
Welcome, Gabriel. Welcome. Thank you so much for that great introduction. Next up, we're going to have Tammy.
Yeah, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Tammy Maggs, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Meta Club LLC. And we recently just launched our first NFT drop for Meta Club, and it is Meta Women NFT 2. We are currently building in the Metaverse. We have quite a development going on in the Metaverse, and we have a mission to help narrow the gender gap in Web3 careers. Our goal is to help women onboard and develop their Web2 skills and to pursue their career goals in Web3 and provide them with the tools and resources needed to go after what they want to pursue and with the development of Web3 and the Metaverse. And we'll get into that a little bit more later, but very happy to be here and meet everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Tammy. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing more of your story. Next up, finally, last but certainly not least, is Diego.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Well, I'm from Sacramento, California. That's where I'm at right now. And I'm the founder of Jada AI. We are developing artificial general intelligence. And we're going to be releasing a DeFi app pretty soon. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome, Diego. Welcome to the panel. Welcome to the stage. Yes, welcome our panelists. We are so excited again to have you guys here. And so we're going to get right into it. All of you have different backgrounds, upbringings, and stories and experiences, and how you came to this point in life, becoming experts in your fields and moving into deep tech and or frontier tech. Could you please share with our guests how you found your passion? Gabriel, let's start with you.
Yes. All right. So I think as far as I can remember, I've been either drawing or writing stories or making music. I've always been a very creative person. But I got into 3D a little later though, because I wanted to add an extra layer of storytelling or immersion to my artwork. So I grew up in in the United States. I traveled across the United States quite a lot, but in the United States they call that the hood. So I grew up in a friendly neighborhood, and I thought that art school was a good idea, but I thought it was reserved for rich white kids. So I didn't dare take the step and go apply to art school. So I kind of learned everything by myself with other artists. I started by doing CD covers for local hip hop artists. I did murals and for restaurants and stuff. So I was, and then my own projects, of course. But then at one point I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go to art school anyway. So I applied, and then I realized that I was also a little, I had, biased, and art school is not reserved for rich white kids. It's also for poor white kids. So I was there, and it was quite a cultural shock, a cultural, experience, I'd say. And I've learned a lot. But then I decided to specialize in 3D because that's the art form where I felt I could add as much layers of storytelling and immersion as I could. So in art school, I found out that I was also, skilled in designing experiences and managing projects. And I think, part of my upbringing in my neighborhood, you have to be strong. You have to show that, people can be around you. So I think that helped me a lot in art school and in my art career as well. And so I've decided from then on that I was going to learn as much as I could to tell my stories in the most efficient and immersive way. So I've learned and mastered everything from 3D modeling to texturing, animation, technical rendering in game engines, programming in game engines to make my own games, AR and VR development, et cetera, and then of course project management. And then I started working with startups, and then with clients, and then I moved to Geneva, and I started working in the luxury industry. And my first big client was a jewelry maker called Van Cleef & Arpels. I think some of you may know. And I created an AR app that was based on the CAD drawing, and I was animating the CAD drawing and all the jewelry that was on the watch. And when you scan the app with your phone, all the butterflies and the flowers that were made out of diamonds, they started, they became alive and started flying around the watch and stuff. And it was a pretty big success, and I was really happy about it. So since then, I decided that I was, going to focus on the luxury industry, and I started working on the concept of digital twins as well. So that's where I found my passion. Actually, that's in those projects, taking something that's difficult and almost impossible to tell a story with, and making a good story out of it. So that's for me.
Yes, definitely. That is awesome. Creating an environment where you could tell your story is certainly important. And that's really what this conversation is about. And so now we're going to have Tammy tell us, how did you find your passion?
Sure. So my entire background was in corporate retail. I spent over 20 years in sales, marketing, and finance in corporate retail. I worked for very large companies like Sirius Satellite Radio and Samsung. And it really was my passion. I absolutely loved team building. What my strength was going into different locations, finding out where the problem was, fixing it, and then moving to a new location. And usually the problem was communication between management and staff. Once you figure that out and you fix it, you develop a plan and you fix it, you instantly see that turnover decreases and your P&L statement tends to follow suit, and things take off. I thought that would be my career until I retired. I was on a very successful path, and then life happens, and you can't control life. So I was injured at work, and because I was a very hands-on manager as well, trying to show management at locations that really you need to be, and this is with anything, this is with a Web3 project, this is with anything that you do in life, you really need to be present with your team, with your staff, with whatever you are building. You need to be present. You need to be a part of that community for them to feel like they are valued. So whenever I would go into location, if they were doing a project, I was doing it as well. So I was doing a floor set and with the management and the staff, and I was injured. That led to a surgery on my spine, which they give you that paper that says you have a 1% chance of a complication. And I was that 1%. So I was diagnosed disabled in 2018 and told I was no longer able to work, and that, I was done. I was done working. I could no longer contribute to society. So when you spend your entire life in a leadership position, and that is what you do, it really is who you are. And so I knew that that was not going to be the end of my story. I just needed to figure out how I was going to contribute to society. And I came across Web3, the NFT space. And I knew right then that was my answer. That was my way back into contributing. And not only was it my way back in, but I knew that I could impact other women's lives by bringing them in. Because I saw what was going to happen. I saw the future. I knew instantly that there was going to be a huge explosion of careers with the development of Web3, the development of the Metaverse. I saw the potential, and I knew that I could make a difference. So we announced back in January that we were going to go right in. We weren't going to just develop a PFP project. We knew right away we were going to do a business. So we started MetaClub LLC. We trademarked the name MetaClub. We got a legal team. We did this right from the beginning. We are female owned. There's 3 co-founders, myself, my wife, and the artist who's a graduate of FIT. And we started this business, and our mission was to onboard as many women as possible into the Web3 space, show them what is about to happen, let them see the careers that are going to be developed, and help them transition from a Web2 career into a Web3 position. And how we wanted to do that was give them the tools, the resources, and help them on the journey the same way that I found this space. But the way that I did it was I had to come in with no help, learn it myself. I wanted to be that stepping stone for them. I wanted to build this club so that they had someone to kind of hold their hand, come in and do it with the assistance of a surrounding community that would be there for them. So yeah, that's how I got here. That's my story.
Awesome. That is absolutely amazing. Such an amazing story. Your passion to impact the lives of women, which you are doing every day. Thank you for that. Next up is Diego. Tell us how you found your passion and what is your passion?
Oh, hi. Well, I mean, it's a pretty long story, but in general, like since I was like a little boy, my father, he was a really good software engineer. He used to work for Motorola and such. So like I would always be like surrounded by like computer science books, programming language books, and like I would just like go through them. I would go through them, you know, day and night, learning about neural networks, learning about AI, learning about all of these things, and I just saw like a lot of like potential to use these tools to you know, to help society, to build applications that would, you know, bring value. And I got really deep into that, and then I started working into like communications. But I just started noticing that the space was like super male dominated, and I mean, me being a male myself, I just couldn't, I just couldn't like identify with the things happening around, because most of my supervisors and managers were females, and they were being like um, um, you know, like undermined, or their ideas weren't being listened, or their ideas were being appropriated. So like that gave me like another perspective in terms of like diversity and the ego barriers. um, I don't know what happened, but I decided to go into film, which is another passion of mine. I did that for a couple of years, um, you know, helping people through film, you know, doing documentaries about different, you know, social situations, or you know, things that people were going through. And then it was during the, yeah, it was like in 2017 during the crypto crash. During the crypto crash of 2017, 2018, when I just saw that the technology wasn't sustainable. You know, the DeFi protocols weren't sustainable. There was a lot of scams. The technology was very raw still. It was super hard to use. It just wasn't friendly. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should start doing AI again. Maybe I should start building something that would make these technologies more accessible to populations everywhere, easier to use, and yeah, I started building something in the background. But it was during the pandemic that I was like, oh, you know what? I should do this full time. I should do this full time, and that's when we really started like developing the project that we're working on right now. And basically that's kind of how I found my passion, through like going through all of these different paths and branches until I landed here. Yeah.
Awesome. That is absolutely awesome. How you made the pivot, and that's the underlying thing that I continue to hear in your stories, making that pivot when something is happening in the world that makes you realize really how everything is connected to one thing or another. Next up, we're going to have Kristina. How did you find your passion?
I found my passion by crying. I'm sort of the antithesis of Gabe and Diego, where I didn't grow up in technology and I'm not as versed in technology. And I cried on my first day of my real job because I had gotten this degree in international studies initially. Then I went on to get my MBA in focusing on Pacific Rim. And I thought I would go and work for a big corporation somewhere in the Pacific Rim, preferably Singapore. And instead, I ended up sort of just plopped into Northern Virginia, close to Washington, D.C., with what I thought was a fancy title of project manager. And it sounded really, really great. But the day at work, they told me I would have to write some cold fusion and some CGI scripts. And so I started crying because I didn't know how to do either of those things. And I went home, and my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, said, you know what, you better be a quick learner if you're going to survive. So I did. I actually, I was very proud to be at a startup that was catering to nonprofits and associations in the very early days of the web. My claim to fame is that I processed unencrypted credit card numbers to banks for UNICEF's first Trick or Treat online campaign. Probably upwards of 1,000 different credit card numbers, just completely clear text passing. I also can claim to have brought down the St. Jude website for 8 hours one time because I didn't do a backup job on their website. And so really great, a little bit bumpy start to my career, if you will. But what I realized as time went on is we kept creating and kept developing, and we would just do things because we could do them. And it was great to kind of think about that in like the late 90s or early 2000s. But, as we got into 2005, 2007, I realized that we were just doing the crazy dance because we could and nobody was stopping us. And that most businesses out there were putting their entire reputation and their brand on the line for somebody like me doing the crazy dance behind the scenes, either for their website or mobile device and application as we kind of got more sophisticated. And so that's really what started to spur my passion for policy. I understood that even though we can do really cool things with digital, there's also a lot of risk. And I started to realize that it's not just about a brand and it's not just about bringing down somebody's website. It's about, creating a website that somebody can't navigate. They can't see it and people go, oh yeah, because they, might be challenged visually, or, they might have a hearing problem. Yes, there are people with those disabilities in the world, but there is also an aging population such as myself that have carpal tunnel. And there's all kinds of differently abled people around the world. There's all kinds of different people that aren't included in digital channels. And it's because somebody decides, and, a lot of times that's crazy. Somebody was me. To basically do things because we could, not really thinking about things because we ought to do them differently or there was a bigger opportunity. And so I started focusing on digital policy, which is really helping organizations, not just for profit, but also nonprofits, NGOs, understand that when we build things, there's always an opportunity, but there's also a risk. And what we really need to do is consider the whole array of opportunities and risks and think about them actively and make decisions, not just continually create because we can. And so that's really what I do day in and day out. It's my passion. It's my love. I love the fact that I work with the UN. I work with really large multinationals. I work with small startups. And what I help to do is infuse digital policy into their organizations so that we are developing, and we're doing that with safety in mind, that we're doing privacy by design, that we're thinking about accessibility before we actually create anything, and that we have a place for everybody to come as they are, as I said in my keynote, be who they want to be, not because that's how we see them or want them to be, but that's how that human actually sees themselves or wants to be seen. And so my passion for digital policy spilled over into XRSI when Kavya Perlman called me up and said, hey, do you want to do digital policy and start to advocate? And so I've turned my digital policy passion into also advocacy and helping governments formulate laws and regulations. I'm proud to say that as part of XRSI, I have advised the Australian government on the first law that actually has privacy by design incorporated into it. And we're advising numerous other governments and different stakeholders. And that's really my passion. I love the fact that there's a way to change the future, not just for all of us standing in this room today, but for everybody else that's coming. And that's the exciting part. So won't dwell on about myself, but I do want to give a shout out to something that's a really important cause to us at XRSI. And Gabe, like my heart was just going pitter patter as you were talking, because at XRSI, I actually have a colleague named Noble Ackerman, and between him and Kavya Perlman and a handful of other folks, they've actually stood up the Beyond Inclusion scholarship program. And I don't know that everybody knows about this. So I just want to kind of give a really quick shout out and a plug that if you are interested in virtual reality and augmented reality, right, we want to go beyond just diversity and talk about diversity. And so what this effort is to fully 100% sponsor scholarship to really, kind of ensure that students can become part of the change. And we're sponsoring, the skills to job ready educational programs for underrepresented talents. So it's a way to get 100% scholarship to actually be included as we build the metaverse, and to ensure that you're part of it, that everybody's part of the effort, and has a way to get there. So the period is still open. If you're interested in the scholarship program, you can head over to cyberxr.org and look up the Beyond Inclusion Scholarship, because it's not just about diversity and saying we're going to do it. It's ensuring that individuals who are underrepresented, not included, are actually empowered to sit at the table, and that they can actually continue to give into the development program and make a change. So just a shout out for that, please.
Well, thank you so much for mentioning that. I will definitely be looking that information up at the end of this session. As I stated earlier, one of the things that we all have noticed in the conversation is that everything was outside of yourselves in terms of your purpose, in terms of your passion for what you do. It wasn't just for you. And me in particular, when it comes to my purpose, and, I want to match my purpose and my passion, right? And so after, as Eve mentioned, after attending an event that did not fully reflect the diversity needed to ensure access and opportunity in the artificial intelligence sector, and after continuously hearing that artificial intelligence is the fourth industrial revolution, I understood that you can't have a revolution without Black women. And so at that point, I decided to do something about it. And in August of 2020, I founded Black Women in Artificial Intelligence. That is my passion. That is my purpose, because we want to ensure that there is access and opportunity for every woman, Black women in particular, in this space. We want to make sure that we are there at the table, but not only at the table.
There's a person here for Black women in AI, blah 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 blah.
Hello. And so we're going to continue on, because again, there is not a revolution without Black women. And I will continue to say that in any room that I am in, and those of you who have been around me know that I will say that. So again, we're excited about what's happening in this conversation, where we're talking about immersive technology, cultural data, and AI, what the purpose of this conversation is about. And we're going to go on. As our topic covers both technology and sustainable development goals, let's address the latter now. The Sustainable Development Goals were developed at the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2012. The purpose was to create a set of goals, globally environmental and political and economic challenges that we face as humanity. In 2015, the UN chose, through a vote, 17 objectives applicable universally, transform the world, and has promoted them as global goals of sustainable development for the period of 2015 to replacing the 8 millennial development goals. The SDGs are a commitment that seeks to address the most urgent problems of the world, and they are all interrelated. So my question is, what is the goal that you most focus on in your work and your life? For example, Black women for me is gender equality. Oftentimes when we talk about gender equality, we talk about when people enter the workforce and things of that nature as far as genders, and when women enter the workforce and how the level playing field. But I submit to you that Black women have always been in the workforce, whether forced or by choice. We've always been. My goal in particular is to provide that access and opportunity for Black women to thrive, an opportunity and a space for them to be all that they were called to be. So that is the SDG goal for Black women that we focus on. Diego, what about you? What is your chosen SDG goal?
Well, honestly, I think we need all of them, like in parallel. That's the only way we're going to break the advancement barrier. But focusing on one, I'd say decent work and economic growth. I think that if we, first build empathy, right? Understand that every human being has the right to have access to decent work, to be able to spend time in a way that makes them fulfilled as a human being, while being, while both being and feeling productive to society, to their communities. Things will start moving a bit, focusing on developing the economies, on fixing the problems that plague every community. We start fixing these problems around us, we'll have the bandwidth and to understand that we're all the same. We're all the same, and that we have the same rights, and we have the rights to pretty much to respect and things like that. And that should also help with gender equality, with inclusion, and just overall make us all get along together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is a great goal. Kristina, what is your SDG goal?
I have two. I have sort of I think of one as global and one as local. So my local goal is really no poverty. I live in the wealthiest county, and I'm sad to say that every day we have 20,000 children that go hungry in this county. And I don't understand how that's actually possible, that we allow 20,000 children to feel hunger pains when we have plenty of money to solve that problem. And so I understand but I choose to volunteer and to work on that, not just through digital channels in terms of fundraising and helping communities, but also volunteer with my family, different events, and help out communities. So that's my local goal. And then my global goal even though you mentioned, is very much quality education. I feel like the only way that we're going to have inclusivity is through quality education for all and to promote lifelong learning. And I think that that really matters because there's around 5.5 million girls who are right now at the primary school age who are out of school. A third of the countries in the developing regions have not achieved gender parity in primary education. And so I really see that as being, a needle that we can move and make a huge way that we're going to meet sustainable development goals. Definitely not by 2030, but even beyond, unless we include people, but especially women and especially young girls into that effort. And so I think that quality education matters so much and is really a key solution to meeting SDGs.
Yes. Education definitely will level the playing field or assist in the effort in leveling the playing field. Insight. Next up would be Gabriel. Tell us your SDG goals.
Yeah, so I have 3, but the third one I'm gonna save it for the next question. So number 5, which is gender equality, and 10, which is I chose to focus on quite a while back. So as a Black man and the father of an amazing 8-year-old little girl, those are they resonate deeply. My wife and in teaching our daughter love and inclusion, because in the end of the day, that's what the problem is in the world. That's why we have the 17 goals. Is we don't love our fellow human beings enough to allow them to have the same. So we try to promote compassion and inclusion in the education we give our little girl. I think it starts in the home. No matter what your family configuration is, if it's the traditional, more recomposed family, or it just doesn't matter. As long as there's love at home, the outcome will be love and inclusion. So I deeply believe that if you teach that to your children, you can reach those 2 goals, gender equality and 10, is because you teach your children that the problem in the world is a lack of love. They will therefore become problem solvers, and they will solve the problem by injecting love in the world. So that's what and you need to teach by example as well. You have to apply that famous commandments. Love thy neighbor, not biased, not in a biased way. Just love everybody unconditionally. Do not judge, and you help people out. You build them up. That's how I think you can save the world. More love, less money.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Next, that is beautiful. Thanks. Next up is Tammy. Tell us, what is your SDG goal?
So reduced inequality would be what I focus on the most. And really, it comes down to incorporating all of the SDGs, poverty, education, equality in opportunities for economic growth. And really how I'm looking at it, and when I think about, what we do and what we're creating, it's the opportunities for women. When we think about women in the workforce and the history of opportunity take care of their families without a male presence, and the role that they've had or the opportunities compared to just equal pay or equal opportunities in management roles or leadership roles. What we're giving them when you present the opportunities that are with the development of the careers that are going to be taking place, we're giving them that start, that education that they're going to need, the experience that they're going to need going into the metaverse and learning firsthand what it takes to navigate, to be able to hand, so that when they want to apply for positions related to the development of the metaverse, they will already know firsthand what that means. The analogies, the technology aspect. We're talking fashion design, community management, project management, all of these positions that are going to be related, and letting them pick what their skills are, whether that's communication, organization, management, leadership. What is their skill? What are they good at? And it may not even be what they have done in their Web 2 lives or in their current skill set, but what are they really good at? Where do they thrive in life? And then career, and thrive in that career, and helping them through that. And then they can succeed in helping their family get out of poverty, or helping their children learn and not fall behind, where children in a higher economic background, like right now, there are children in the private school that are already spending time in the metaverse. Well, how long do you think it will take for public school children to have that opportunity? So giving these women that opportunity to learn that, and then therefore teach their children. That's how I'm contributing to these SDG goals.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, my goodness, what a team. You guys mentioned a number of different goals. You know, I wish that we can all just be one team. That would definitely then find many solutions to the way we manage our fragile natural resources, promoting peace and inclusive societies to reduce inequalities and contribute to the prosperity of economies. What would be one project that you worked on or are working on that you consider of most important, where you made or you're still making the highest positive impact to the people around you and to the world? Amy, could you please start this round?
Yes, absolutely. And this is my favorite question. Because I really kind of get to tell you what we're doing, right? So,
yes.
So what we have developed, when we came on, right, we had a vision, we knew what we wanted to do, we knew who we wanted to make this possible for, and we knew we wanted to, and how were we going to do that, right? How do we, because obviously 3 women, myself, my wife, and the artist, how are we going to make that big of an impact? Obviously, you need a huge team to pull off something like this. So it's not just us. We're just the 3 founders. And then we have a legal team, and we have a team of developers, and we have ambassadors that are professional, strong women that are on this team, giving us their input and helping us develop this. Who is a licensed therapist who brings positivity and energy to our community every day and helps build. And then we have an entire development team that's building the metaverse for us. And that's built on Unreal Engine 5, which is incredible and very lifelike. If anybody's ever seen an Unreal Engine 5 metaverse, it's not at all Pixar pixelated. It is very game futuristic, and its graphics are unbelievable. We're building on 6 islands. So it's like just like a getaway paradise where you're going to be able to learn. So how are we doing this? We have partnerships with experts. So we are not going to educate. Obviously, we can't educate members that are joining. We have partnerships. So we have an expert in marketing, an expert in development. We have an expert in education. We have an expert in wellness, and we have an expert in finance that are giving us their expertise to help develop workshops. We have an entire staff of mentors that are going to be mentoring the club. And so our members will be able to go through workshops, and they will be able to finish those workshops, and then they'll be able to go ahead and take specialized workshops, then pursue their careers, their career of choice. They also will be able to take online classes, which will either be through Udemy or well, we're not. I'm not going to tell you exactly who we're going through first, because Udemy is not Web3 enabled yet, and so we are going through either one or whoever gets there first. But Udemy is who I have a contact with and go through. But they'll be able to take an online course as well. We'll have a full wellness center with a certified yoga instructor, and we have a holistic coach that will be coming well, and we have a wellness therapist who has agreed to come on staff to do meditation and guidance so that you can have that getaway there. We have a media center where any kind of NFT artist, so our musicians or artists or photography or anything that they want to pursue, they'll be able to display their work and sell it. So we are creating entrepreneurs as well, and we'll be able to have physical workshops where we'll teach them how to get those skills to pursue, to engage in selling. So not only are we building them knowledge base, but we are building them the skills to be able to create careers. We really want to gift them the tools to be able to go out into this vast world of career, and give them the knowledge and the skills to pursue a career, not only to thrive with that career, but to help better their families. And this is for women that are disabled like me, women that are single home parents, women that are maybe affected by the pandemic, or that are working 60, 70 hours with families. So narrowing this gender gap is so important to us. We want women to thrive. We want women to go out there and to access to these careers that the men are going to have. And we think that our contribution with the Meta Club is an example of that.
Well, that is absolutely awesome. I love that you said, knowledge careers. That is absolutely phenomenal. And that's certainly next level. We love that. Next up is Gabriel. What would be one project that you worked on or are working on that you consider to be of?
Yeah, so it's a project I'm working on, and I mentioned it in my answer to the question before. It's related to goal number 4 of the SDGs, and it's quality education. I remember where I'm from and how far it can take you. Although, I mentioned it before, I grew up in the hood. And although I did grow up there, both my parents are lecturers in university. My father teaches philosophy and my mother teaches Latin and literature. So I've always been around, knowledge, and I didn't even know we had walls in our house because there were books everywhere. So that has always been important for me, and really, I know how it feels when you want to go to university and something, and then people tell you that because you're from such and such area, you'll never be able to afford the school and blah blah blah. And my school, the school I went to, I went to high school in France, right? And the way the education system is designed is it's very hard to get a superior education because they will force you into, paths that you don't necessarily want to go to. And I remember having very good grades. I was a lazy student at school, but because, I like to read what the teacher was talking about, and it was complicated. It was complicated because although I had good grades, they kind of want to forces me to, go into apprenticeships and learn how to be a car mechanic or learn how to cut trees and stuff like that. Now, I've got grades as somebody else, and they get to go to university. I want that chance too. So what the project I'm working on is developing an education, providing education for underprivileged kids or adults or inmates, and teaching 3D related disciplines, so 3D art or 3D tech development, teaching coding, giving them the tool to have their place in Web3, giving them the chance, because I remember when I was 17, 18 years old, and I would get pulled over by the cops, and they would say blah blah blah, and or match description. They always assumed that I was a deadbeat and that I was not going to do anything in my life. Look at me now, laughing, right? So I want to give that chance. I want to give that feeling to my to people like me who have a similar upbringing or background, and also people who come from abroad because they're refugees or because they persecuted somewhere else. And that's the project I'm working on right now. I'm giving free mentorship to a bunch of students or to a bunch of young kids who want to get their career in art starting. So I'm giving resources and giving a training and education. How am I going to fund that in the long run? I have no idea yet. Well, now it's just a one-to-one thing. But I'm developing it, it's working, and I love to see the smile on those kids' faces. Great.
That is awesome. Mentorship is extremely important, and we talk about that in business all the time. Mentorship and having an advocate, and I believe you are a coach of them, Gabriel. So thank you so much for that. Next up is Kristina. What is one project that you're working on or that you've worked on that you consider to be of most importance?
Wow. So this is always a hard one because I feel like there are little steps that we each take every day and but the particular project or effort that I'm really proud of is one that everybody here can participate in again this year, and that is XR Safety Week. So last year we held the second annual XR Safety Week. It happens around Human Rights Day in December 10th to the December 15th. And last year, on the fifth and final day of XR Safety Week, we began with an affirmation from participants and represented organizations who basically declared that we need to adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for the Metaverse. And on that day, we actually held an XR data classification roundtable, which I think is really important. We have to create awareness around the impact of XR data collection on human rights. And it's something that we don't necessarily think about day in and day out in our regular jobs. And so it was really poignant to just take a moment and pause and think about what does that really mean. And so on that day, we had a lot of discussions focused on XR data, talked about the specific context of data collection and uses in the metaverse, and we debated with various XR stakeholders, technologists, human rights experts. We had a philanthropic and I think several of them representative, as well as civil liberties organizations, and also just citizens. And so we had these roundtable discussions that were rooted in 3 specific kind of areas. One was education, the second one was work, and the third one was healthcare. Those were the 3 contexts that we were focused on. And the reason roundtable, we published the first data classification roundtable report. Why would that even matter? Because as we're building the metaverse, we need to actually understand what data we're collecting, what data is okay to collect and to store, and what data starts to be really risky, and how are we ensuring privacy and safety of that data, right? We all understand that today data collection is happening at an industrial scale, right? You know, Meta, Facebook, Amazon, everybody's gotten us accustomed to that fact. Governments and individuals, and in particular, like I said, businesses are holding a remarkable amount of information about us. And it's also not just information, but it's robust information, right? Going from the very fundamental things we always think about, like our email address, but with each passing day, more and more aspects of our lives are being digitally tracked and stored and used and misused. And so one of the things that we need to understand is that the type of data that's being collected now and will be collected in these immersive environments is unlike any type of data that's been collected before, right? It's data that gives certain indicators of things we may not want to share, right? Things like your sexual preferences, perhaps that I'm going to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease because I'm not typing as fast, and it's just something that my doctors can't understand yet, but they will in 10 years. And so as part of this effort and this roundtable, we created a report, and what we did is we demanded that organizations innovate in the emerging technology domain proactively, not retroactively, right, but proactively, and that they address safety, inclusivity, and promote business and development models and technologies that do not undermine human rights. I'll quote Kavya Perlman here, which I think is a really appropriate moment to do so. The metaverse is different than anything we've seen before, heard before, and experienced before. We will be experiencing reality. And the problem with these immersive environments is you can't unsee what you see, right? And so historically, we've seen a lot of organizations say, we'll just risk it. We'll move fast and we'll break things. Well, now we're breaking humans potentially. And so knowing that emerging technologies are unfolding, including the evolution to the metaverse and the vast data collection, will only increase and compromise our human rights and dignity, and we have to start taking actions now. And so, we recommended last year that organizations do not trade off privacy in the name of safety, such as client-side scanning on applications and devices or encryption backdoors. Instead, we recommended that organizations adopt privacy-preserving technologies, such as fully homomorphic encryption and differential privacy. And so I'm really proud of that. I think the fact that we're encouraging every regulatory body every day in and out through the MRC to follow the lead of individuals who participated in this roundtable, like E-Safety Commissioner of Australia, that has set the example for leveraging XRSI's immersive technology standards and creating an immersive technology positioning statement. And we think every other government should do the same thing and start to address safety and human rights related risks in these technologies. And so to me, this is a project of passion, if you can't tell. I'm certainly doing it, for everybody out there. I'm also selfishly doing it for myself, and it's because I have a child. I have a child that's growing up in a world where they are teaching him keyboarding in middle school, but they're not teaching him things like records retention policies that Google has for the Chromebook that he uses and the Google Docs he uses every day. And so I have the luxury of teaching my child, as I always have, about digital policy. I'm a digital policy Sherpa by training, but you know what? A lot of other people don't. And so I really feel strongly that we need to encourage each and every individual around the globe to educate themselves, educate their children on potential risk and dangers associated with the immersive and emerging technologies. And I feel like, you know, I get to live this passion every day. I just hope that it's making a difference. And I'm humbled to be trusted by peers, you all, citizens, who join me every day in the MRC mission. And so that is my passion.
Thank you so much. That is an awesome passion. Next up is Diego. Tell us about the project that you're working on that you consider to be of most importance.
Oh, well, at Jada AI, we're pretty much developing this thing called AGI. It's artificial general intelligence. Our goal is to enable machines to think similar to how we do, creating a virtual mind per se, an AI that can feel, think, be autonomous, just like we humans do. Being able to understand in context, being able to understand the problem, why it's important, and what we need to do to fix it, and to take action, of course. So that's what we're working on, and I mean, this kind of technology, it'll have many applications across every industry. It'll help us develop medicines faster. It'll help us identify things like pollution in a way that we can like trace its origins and do something about it. We can be able to understand like what's happening in the economy, being able to predict when something's going to crash or when there's going to be a negative market impact, what we can do about it. Many days, months, or even years in advance. That way we can create more sustainable communities, more sustainable economies. For now, we're going to be focusing on bringing this technology over to DeFi, to decentralized finance. That way people can pretty much like, take control of their assets that they have in these pools, enabling them to receive the full yield that their assets are generating while they're accruing interest and not some other institution. We're also focusing on economic development, where our AI gets to know the user and the environment that they wish to thrive in, and being able to guide the user in growth. Like for example, if you have a business, our AI will be able to guide business owners in how to make it sustainable by understanding what processes you currently are doing within your organization, and both identifying what else you need to do to get to the next level, but also helping you with execution. For individuals, it'll be able to really understand how it is that you want to spend your time and how you want to contribute to the economy, understand what current skills you already have, and guide you through, skill acquisition, through networking, through preparation, through connecting you with new opportunities, pretty much aiding you through this journey. And the reason why we're focusing on AGI, on general intelligence, as opposed to just any other form of the solution, any other kind of flavor of AI, is because like at least in my opinion, most AI solutions out there at the moment they're focusing too much on profit. They're focusing too much on profit, and it's not sustainable. It's like, for example, oh yes, let's just collect all of this data that we may or may not have consent in acquiring. We're going to feed it to our AI so it tells us what potential problems someone is having, and then we're just going to bombard this audience with ads, right? Or yeah, so that's kind of where you draw the line between an AI that is just a tool in the hands of very, very, very greedy people, or an AI that's completely independent from anyone's control and focuses specifically on facilitating growth for the individuals that decide to interact with it.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of what we're working on at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Angel,
I am
Angel, may I bring up some fact because what Jada said. Do you guys know that according to 2019 study conducted by the University of Massachusetts, one AI language processing model's estimated carbon footprint and electricity cost over 626,000 pounds of carbon dioxide? And imagine how much AI we want to use for the metaverse. So the time is now to figure this stuff out. And I'm so glad that we are bringing this to the surface, because we need to build not only fun things, but with climate change in mind, and also inclusion, stability, and respect. So thank you for addressing this. It's very important.
extremely. Thank you guys so much for giving us the insight on your projects that you're working on. I'm hoping that those in the audience are taking notes, and we'll definitely connect with you guys on LinkedIn and things of that nature. Before we get to our last question, I just really wanted to say, in terms of this question as it relates to Black women and artificial intelligence, we are working within Black women in AI and developing partnerships to provide the access and opportunity that I spoke about earlier with great companies such as NVIDIA and Capital One, with our learning and professional development initiatives, as well as mentorship programs. And we are seeing an impact on the lives of our members. One of the things that we're doing in particular is working with NVIDIA and creating cohorts. We've already participated in a cohort for autonomous vehicles and data science, and we're going to work with Central Michigan University in the fall, as well as other organizations creating these types of cohorts that focus on STEM, and again, providing that access and opportunity that we spoke about. Because my full belief is that when you educate a Black woman, you educate a nation, because she will share her knowledge with those around her, and she will impact generations. And so those are the things that we are focused on within Black women in artificial intelligence, always creating partnerships. And we're so excited about that. And now we're going to go to our last question. I hope you guys are ready. And we're going to start with Diego. So let's go with, how do you see the future of and the developments in frontier tech 10 years from now? Let's imagine it. What would be the use case for applying AI, quantum computing, robotics, data management, and the Internet of Things in the Metaverse and Web3 domain? That's a huge question. So we're going to start with Diego.
Diego, I don't think we can hear you. Could you please check?
Oopsie, sorry. There you go. Yeah, it's working now. Yeah, oopsie. Well, that's a super fun question. And I think in 10 years we'll have AI that's much more energy efficient. That'll be able to help us with a lot of things. In particular, like applied to the metaverse, I think AI will be able to do real-time translation for any language. That'll really help with taking down inclusion barriers and enabling individuals to connect with each other and building relationships, building stronger relationships with anyone, regardless of your language or whatever. There's also going to be, for example, AI that can read source code, read programming language, and being able to tell you when a smart contract is gonna turn out to be a scam. It'll be able to save us plenty of time, not having to reskill ourselves. That's one thing. For quantum, right now quantum is still pretty, there's been a lot of advances, but quantum isn't going to replace binary systems anytime soon. They're mostly used for other kinds of applications that binary can't, and vice versa. But I think by then, quantum will be able to run things like particle simulations. So that'll make metaverse spaces much more realistic. Much more realistic, because it'll be like simulating the real world but in the computer, as opposed to animations. So that's what quantum computers will be able to do for us in 10 years. I'd say 10.
Wow.
And yeah.
It looks like a bright future, definitely a bright future of what's going to happen in terms of technology in the next 10 years. And next up, Kristina, and you can choose either one. How do you see the future of and the developments in frontier tech in 10 years from now? What would be the use cases for applying AI or quantum computing or robotics or data management or the Internet of Things in the Metaverse and Web3 domain? And you can choose one.
Oh, wow. So I think we're going to see a revolution, not an evolution, a revolution in terms of healthcare as a result of AI. So I think about situations today, for example, neurosurgeons are in operating theaters, and as they're dealing with victims being flown into them, right, they're able to run certain algorithms to understand, do they need to start immediate surgery, or do they have enough time to do additional assessments, maybe run some additional imaging? So I think that we're already seeing that today. 10 years out from now, what I see is an extension really of that AI and coupling it with the ability to not have to actually wait for a patient to arrive into the theater. I actually see us extending the theater out to the human and being able to operate on them and meet them where they are, which is going to lead to more life-saving capabilities. And so as I look forward, yes, I see the metaverse is going to have things like shopping and gaming and watching movies, and we're all going to be able to, live in virtual worlds together full time. But I see the most tremendous of impacts happening on people who don't have access to really great healthcare today because they are in remote areas. I do see, you or I being able to potentially perform a surgery on somebody rather than waiting for that surgeon to welcome the patient into the theater. And so I see lots of revolution everywhere, but that's the thing that really gets me excited, that I think is going to probably evolve the most, because I see doctors who have this notion of do no harm first, kind of pushing the boundaries, but doing it in a safe way. And I think that they're just highly innovative.
Awesome. So healthcare will definitely be impacted in the next 10 years. What about you, Gabriel? What do you see happening in the next 10 years? One thing that you can imagine happening.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things that crossed my mind. And when I was preparing this question, I came up with a bunch of different scenarios. I think what is more realistic for me in terms of development is that in 10 years we'll have a more or less or several functional metaverses where I see that could help people who suffer from discrimination to actually be more included. And sometimes this discrimination is the fruit of either a disability or distance or whatever, or oppressive regime. And I'm really seeing a metaverse in which people can have a career working in that digital space. And I think that would do a lot for inclusion of especially disabled people or people who are landlocked or whatever. I really hear a lot of people talking about in 10 years we got to go to Mars and stuff like that. The only Mars I care about right now is the chocolate bar in my cellar. So the thing is, the thing is, the most important thing we can do right now is just making sure that we use the technologies for good, for problem solving, instead of creating quick fixes that generate more problems after. Less money, more solutions.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. And
thank you.
Last but certainly not least is Tammy. What do you see in the next 10 years? That one thing.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to go with data entry, like the data management. And, this goes to everything that I talk about as far as like career development. And I think, you're talking 10 years. There's going to be such a major shift in the next 10 years of loss of careers. With the development of AI and the development of just NFTs in general and the expansion of use cases and blockchain, there's going to be an elimination of many, many careers because we're not going to need humans to do the work that we will be enabled through AI and blockchain technology. And so it is extremely important that we take the people that are going to be eliminated from those positions and teach them the new technology. Data management is going to be able to all be enabled through the blockchain. DMV, you won't have to stand in line at the DMV anymore. You won't have to go to the courthouse to get your court records. City Hall. I just think of all of the data management. In 10 years, that will all be on the blockchain.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we are all clapping for not having to go to the DMV in person. So we hope that certainly comes to pass. We want to thank all of our speakers, Tammy, Gabriel, Kristina, and Diego, for being a part of this wonderful conversation. We are going to open it up. We have about 5 minutes for Q&A. We're going to open it up for questions. And then, of course, we're going to have our wonderful host, Eve, come up. So does anyone have any questions for the panelists?
I also want to make a small announcement while you are thinking about your question. We have a fantastic day today, actually, because every great question asked will benefit from, drumroll, please click on C. Please click on C. Yes, all together we need this, because every great question asked will benefit from Jada tokens. You'll receive them for free. So there's a bit of motivation. The last standing are usually the ones to benefit, right? Thank you. Diego, you can see that I updated the banner right now with Jada AI. It's not a sponsored message, but it is a very something wonderful. So do we have now questions? I believe we have many, no? while Edison's running, I can give her a microphone. Ariana, I see appearing. Yes, please.
Hi. So thanks everybody. That was great. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much. I learned a lot, and I was very inspired. I was thinking about everything from a right now. Climate change has been on my mind a lot. It's on the radio a lot where I am right now in Paris in France, and so hearing that shift in towards education and gender equality was actually quite refreshing to, remind me that there's different perspectives out there. Everyone's got to work together and bring their own, I guess, yeah, like values and projects to the space. It's great that we can all do that. I have a question for Kristina, actually. When you were talking about you were talking about everyone needing to be invited to this new world we're creating, this new space. I really agree with that. I was wondering about the terminology. If you're human, if you're breathing, was something that you mentioned, and I definitely think that considering human presence in this space is fundamental. There's also going to be interactions with more and more artificial intelligence. It's going to get more and more sophisticated, like Diego is working on. How do you envision ethics in regards to that? That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that there's multiple layers to that question. And to be honest with you, I don't have answers. I probably have more questions than I do have answers. The questions that I've been asking or wondering are things like, yesterday I was talking with some University of Maryland students and I said, what happens if I get to see my avatar, like myself, right? My digital twin murdered in the metaverse? Like, are there consequences to that? Like, what does that do to my psyche? Do I suffer from PTSD? What kind of support is there going to be for that? So anything from that perspective to, what type of data, is there about me? And if I commit a crime in the metaverse, am I going to be held, accountable? Should I be held accountable in real life? Does it depend on what kind of a crime it is, et cetera? So, and bringing it back to, who commits the crime? I mean, if it's an AI that commits the crime versus a human, is there distinctions? So there's a lot of questions, and I honestly don't have the answers, and neither does policy, neither do regulators. And I think that those are the questions we need to be asking and having conversations about. I certainly have my own opinions, my private opinions as a citizen, but I think we need to be having those conversations right now and baking that in, because technology is just kind of moving ahead. And my biggest fear is that, a lot of people aren't thinking about that. And so, yeah, I unfortunately don't have a really great answer for you. I don't have anything in the box that I could say, here's our solution. What I can say is, I think we discuss this at least twice a week at the MRC with other folks. We talk about differences in thinking. And when you bring up something like ethics is highly subjective, depends on where you're located, what your background is, who you are, et cetera. So we try to think about things that we can embed as standards into the metaverse, because that is something that we can test for. It's something that we can bake in. It's something that we can actually hold corporations, governments, and everybody else accountable for, things like privacy by design or, security and safety even. And so I think that that might be a good framing place to start from as we try to tackle something that's as broad and sometimes as nebulous as ethics. But yeah, great question and lots to unpack there.
Yeah, great question. Great question. Yes. Do we have any other questions?
I have a question. Hi there. It's Alison. I'm trying to raise my hand. I can't get it to work for me at the moment. Is that okay? Ask a question?
Yes.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Thank you. So thanks for a great session. Really informative, as always, with the amazing panel up there. I was hearing yesterday on a session, somebody was thinking of that we should have a 911 for the metaverse. I know 911 is there for an American, but it's kind of the equivalent in all the countries, and we should propose this for the metaverse. And I was just wondering what some of the panel's views are on this.
If they're a little more friendly than the real ones, I'm all here.
Okay, all right. So if we make an assumption that they're very friendly, but it was the concept of actually a 911, could that be really helpful, especially around the bit of assaults, the stuff that was just talked around attacks, murder, all of that. Just interested.
That's a great question. I love that question in terms of having a 911, but who would you report and how would they be reported if we're talking about data privacy and people having the ability to be a part of the metaverse? And, you know, maybe everyone's name is not Kristina. Maybe that's not her real name. I know it is, but I'm saying maybe it's not. If I'm calling 911, what am I reporting? Am I reporting an action or am I reporting the person and the action? So that would be my question. It looked as if Gabriel may have had a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to share my feelings about it. I think that's a great question because, you know, everywhere where there are human interactions, there ought to be some sort of regulations, and then you need someone or something to regulate those interactions. I was just kidding when I made a comment about, you know, if they were friendlier than the real ones. There's a lot of friendly police officers, but I think if we go down that road, if there should be a 911, 99 for the metaverse. I think this is one of the areas that we could, where we could, you know, involve AI and quantum computing, because if you just allow humans if you give humans the authority to act as, you know, law enforcement, even in the metaverse, our natural, you know, I guess the human natural instinct would be to exert some sort of, you know, zeal in the way they enforce policies and laws, and that they will come after you and they'll come after you hard. Believe me, I know when police want to come after you hard, even if you're not guilty, kind of hurts. So I think a well-regulated and taught and instructed AI would do a fantastic job at that. And I think that would be needed indeed.
I think you're like 100%. I would say everything that you said, comma, right, and open interoperability, right, because we're going to need identities that are portable and are able to move across ecosystems. And I think that we absolutely will have to have an identity in the metaverse. And it's not just for crimes. It's also going to be to allow us to interact with businesses, organizations, other virtual citizens. I mean, we have Barbados that just announced that they're going to have their embassy in the metaverse, right? That's what they're creating. In Seoul, Korea, we're seeing, you know, driver's license tests for the elderly being issued through the metaverse. So I think that we're going to have the identity, and that can help with crime prevention, with insurance of security. I don't see how we're going to get away from that. I think the fundamental question, you know, that you brought up, I think is a good one. And I think it comes back to, so who will be the authority in this environment? Will there be multiple authorities? And who ultimately is accountable if a crime occurs? And the only thing I do know for certain at this moment is that it can't be, the citizen who a lot of big tech have said like, well, you wouldn't walk down a dark alley at night. So why are you going to take a risk in the metaverse? Like, that's not an okay answer, right? The answer is we do have to feel safety. We have to be secure in the metaverse. And when we aren't that, whether it's for something along the lines of bullying or harassment, or if it's much more, extreme crimes, I think we have to have a way of addressing that. And so 911 authorities that maybe aren't 911, but you can still call. Like I can call my police department and, use a regular 9-digit number. It doesn't have to be a 911 call, and they'll still come out and help me out. And so I think we have to have multiple layers, multiple accountable entities outside of that.
Oh, that's a very good answer to a very important question and lots of ideas. So I was wondering if we have any other question in the audience. Otherwise, we'll start wrapping up and taking a group selfie or screenshot, I mean. You don't have to raise your hand, just pick the microphone. Okay, well then I would say let's applaud to our speakers first, and then we'll come to the closing. Please click on the letter C. Yes, jumps are great. Spacebar, spacebar. And standing up for 5 or groovy moves. Okay, because we're entering this celebrative mode, I know that Diego has a little message to give, to say some words. Diego, please use the microphone.
Yay. Well, I'm super happy to be here. It was really nice sharing ideas with everyone and making new friends. So yeah, I'd like to oh, sorry, my cat was biting me. Yeah, so like I want to thank everyone for their questions. The 911 one was really nice. We're gonna need one. So yeah, I'd like to give Jada tokens to everyone for free, of course. They're on Ethereum, so anyone that has a MetaMask wallet already enabled, feel free to message me through LinkedIn. That's where I mostly live, on LinkedIn, and yeah, send me your public key, the one to receive, and I'll have them sent to you in the next couple of days.
Thank you,
again,
Gabriel.
and totally free. Don't worry about connecting your wallet or anything like that. It's like we cover the gas fees and everything, so don't worry about that. Speakers included. Everyone gets tokens. Everyone here gets tokens. Yeah, tokens for everyone.
Woohoo! Isn't it beautiful? And besides, I would say, Diego, I know who the people are in this audience. I will link them directly with you, because otherwise you have the whole world knocking on your door. We're streaming right now. Unless you want that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have one more announcement to make. To celebrate one person in this audience, a person from our community who's been amazing, curious, talented, dedicated, pushing her boundaries to understand how to design 3D virtual buildings, world, assets, everything that is needed to kind of build a very inclusive, accessible, and beautiful metaverse space. She's in the beginning of her journey. She's studying by herself, and she's been raised in the United States but moved to Paris just some months ago. And she knocked on my LinkedIn door at some moment saying like, I want to participate in this decentralized series. It's all fun. I love it. But I also need a mindset. I want to study, but it's really hard. I get stuck in Blender. I get stuck in Unreal Engine. I can't really figure out a few steps that, I'm challenged with. And I'm not a designer, but I have this amazing community of all of you who are talented at whatever you're doing, so I can easily match And thank you to all of you in the audience and outside who are so open to support this new souls, new bright minds who are coming to this movement of frontier technology. So please join me in clapping for Ariana. Ariana, make a jump or something to show yourself, please. Yeah, that's Ariana, she's jumping. Because today she got her super mentor, Gabriel. Thank you so much for accepting this offer. And I don't know how you can shake hands, but please pretend you're doing that virtually.
You can high five. Yeah.
Much love, much love. Yes.
Really exciting about that.
Thank you, Eve. Oh my gosh. Thanks for the shout out.
Girl, you deserve it. You are doing an epic job starting by yourself. I think you just need a little guidance and then you will be building the best metaverse spaces that are there in the world to be. So thank you for being you and for Gabe to supporting you and for everyone else. Please do reach out to anyone in your network whenever you have a question, but because people are usually good and open. It's just we think that we don't want to bother them. And one more thing, it is the screenshot, could be selfie called, but I call this group photo. So please come to where our speakers are and rotate yourself to face me. I will be taking the screenshot. Or maybe it will be Ramona because she is outside. Okay, let me do that. Buva, I see you standing in the corner. Could you please join everyone on stage? Thank you. Think about crazy moves. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 functionality for your dancing vibe. So you can also click on C or Y to show some kind of beautiful environment for everything. And I will zoom on all of you and count. Well, wait till Buva rotates yourself. It's the letter Q. You hold on it. It will rotate your avatar. I like the back as well. Very good outfit. But please rotate yourself, Buva. Hold the letter Q. It will rotate your avatar. Or use your mouse to grab the screen and just drag along. Okay, so I am counting to 3 and pick the move. 1, 2, 3, go! Okay, 1 is taken, fantastic. Okay, that will be this. Now we're gonna go into the next one. 1, 2, 3, go! All right, jumpy moves, I love it. I got you on camera. And we'll do something else where all of you, let's try all of us to jump. Can we do that? Spacebar is the jump move. Okay, yeah. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, and you'll be jumping. So 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, and once again, 1, 2, 3, click. Woo! Okay. And last but not least, let's all show love. It will be hearty photo. 1, 2, 3, clap your hands. Okay. So much love in the audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Being the best.
It's the team of Evenness and all of you in the community. That's what makes it special. We have started a group on LinkedIn called Right 3.0. That stands for Responsible Innovators Going High Tech. And we just want people who are really cautious about building sustainably with accessibility and inclusion in mind to join the movement, to share their stories, use cases, some reports, findings, because then all of us who are building or creating can also be aware that there are frameworks and different use cases that they can keep in mind. Okay, well, please do hang out, ask questions. It's still a few, well, not really, but take your time to just talk to one another. If you need to go, feel free to do so. I would like to say big love, to send big love to all the speakers who participated today, shared their knowledge, addressed very important topics. And I would really love to invite you to attend all our next events. Stay close, stay connected, and enjoy the rest of your week and the rest of the year, because you are all awesome and amazing with AI in the sense of it, and virtuous with VR. Thank you.